Hello and welcome back to Lesson 4 of Understanding Roth and Traditional Accounts. I'm so glad you decided to join me again, and this will be presented by myself, Francesca Neal. Let's review the mission real quick to help educators, families, and veterans overcome barriers to investing through education-first financial planning, proper account setup, and long-term wealth building strategies, one lesson at a time. So let's recap our lessons up until this point. The first lesson was on why people want to invest, but they typically don't. What's holding you back? The second lesson was on debt. How can you start investing if you are paying tons of money in debt? So we want to make sure we have a plan or strategy, and we discuss different strategies that you could employ. The third lesson was on the rule of 72 and how you can use that quick strategy to see when your money will double. So it's also what leads this, the rule of 72, your money doubling and taking advantage of that compound interest. Then we had our homework. For our homework, I challenge you to look at your savings accounts. We discussed using the rule of 72. Most accounts only give you 1 cent or 2 cents, and that would take about 7,400 years to double. Whereas high yield savings accounts or money market accounts give you a lot more starting at 3 and above. And if we just go with 3%, with the rule of 72, that doubles in 24 years. So I hope you went and looked at your accounts, that you have money just sitting there, to start just doing little strategies to get that money to start working for you and invest in getting money that's just sitting there to actually earn interest at the same time. And it will compound as well. Then I challenged you to identify funds and the timeline. How long is it going to take you to pay off your debt so you can start investing? And for those who are ready to start investing, to look at low index S&P 500 mutual funds or exchange traded funds. So remember, this is just educational content only, not financial advice. I'll be able to do more with financial advice here pretty soon, prayerfully. I've already scheduled to take my Series 65 test within the next month, so hopefully see how long it takes to get registered, and we can start going from there. So our objectives today, we're going to look at the features of Roth and traditional accounts, because you need to know and start thinking about how you want to invest your money. So we're going to look at the withdrawals, the tax implications, and shape retirement planning, also the differences and benefits, and then look at the limits. Okay. So I saw this quote and I thought it was very, very important to add this. The benefits of tax referral. Do you have a job? If yes, then you have a tax problem. The harder you work to get ahead and build your income, the more taxes you pay. In order to have a maximum cash at retirement, you need to also find ways to maximize your taxes. And I said that at the beginning, when we're building financial legacy, also we're working in a tax plan for that as well. So tax-deferred accounts allow you to invest and to grow your money, compounding more efficiently, and postponing those tax payments until withdrawal. And that significantly induces your compound growth in your overall retirement accounts. We all agree on that. So with that, we're going to talk about not only just IRAs, but 401ks and 403bs, and dive a little bit deeper into that, and definitely employee matches. Okay, let's talk about a couple of the benefits of the accounts. So for our traditional accounts, they provide immediate tax savings. And what does that really mean? It reduces your taxable income when you're paying your taxes. And I'll talk about it a little bit more with some examples. Roth IRAs offer tax-free growth, meaning your investments can grow without being taxed. allowing for potentially greater returns during your retirement years when withdrawals are made. And then we're talking about employee contributions. I hope every one of you who have employee contributions in your 401k are at least contributing the amount of the match, because that's essentially free money, enhancing your retirement savings. And then it also encourages you to contribute regularly. So there are some considerations. Key factors for retirement planning. You assess your current and expected tax brackets to decide whether to prioritize in your traditional or Roth accounts. Your employer match, again, make sure that you're investing enough to capture any full matching benefits that are available to you. And then contribution limits. There are contribution limits when you're doing your employee-employee match that we will discuss as well. So which IRA do you prefer? We have the traditional. Remember, that one is before taxes now, and you defer the tax payments until you retire. The traditional IRA non-deductible, so that's if you make more than the limits, then they aren't deductible, and that's typically for your higher incomes, and they usually do the backdoor Roth IRA if they choose to. And then we have the Roth IRA. Contributions are not deductible, but you receive tax deferral on earnings, and your withdrawals are tax-free. So contributions are made with after-tax money, but when you withdraw it, none of it will be taxed. So as long as you meet the parameters, which are it has to be held for at least 5 years, and you have to be 59 and a half. But there's even another advantage to having a Roth IRA. Your contributions can be available to you anytime without penalty, and there aren't any minimum required distributions. So I skipped over that one. For your traditional IRAs, one big piece is there are required minimum distributions, and I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. If you look at the chart at the bottom, it's just breaking it out in a different way. For your traditional, you can save up to $7,500 as well as with your Roth. If you look at deductibility, for traditional it is, but there are income limits. Roth IRA is not deductible. Earnings on your traditional, tax deferred. Roth, they're tax deferred as well. Retirement withdrawals after age 59 and a half. IRA, traditional IRA, they're taxable. In the Roth IRA, tax-free if the Roth IRA is held at least 5 years. Distributions. So traditional IRA, they are required at age 73. Roth IRA, there's no age requirement or a requirement to distribute your mandatory distributions. Again, employer matching, like I said, that's free money. So if you are contributing 6% of your salary and they are going to give you 3%, half of that, you've already given yourself $1,800. There's no market out there that you can just do that on a regular basis. So if you're not contributing to your employer match, and if your employer does match, please, tomorrow, sign up. You just, free money, just giving away. So there are additional opportunities to save besides your individual Roth IRA. If your employer has a 401k or 403b, and 403bs are for schools and hospitals, nonprofit organizations, typically they will have a Roth 401k, 403b. So let's look at those contribution limits. Remember, this is in addition to what I've already discussed with your Roth, with the traditional and Roth IRAs. Those are the individual ones you do on your own. So for your employer, they have to take it out of your check and it goes into a 401k or 403b, and you have to tell them beforehand if it's going to be traditional or Roth. So up into everybody can contribute up to 24,500. They have a catch-up contribution for age 50 and above of 8,000, an additional 8,000, and then a catch-up continued for contribution for ages 60 to 63, an additional 11,250 on top of the 2450. And this is the same for both the traditional and the Roth. The difference is when they deduct it out for traditional, it's pre-tax. It's not deductible. And with the Roth, your earnings are just going to be your earnings. Tax deferred still, retirement withdrawals, taxable, tax-free for Roth. Distributions, they are required at age 73 from your traditional 401k, 403b as well. If you have a Roth 401k or 403b, there's no age requirement. So we're going to do two things with this chart, and I hope you can see it very clearly. We're going to talk about the high cost of waiting, which goes back into our last lesson, compounding interest, and we use the rule of 72. So this one right here is just to give you a quick idea. This individual A contributed, and they just used the annual contribution of $7,000 every year for their 20s. So from 22 to 29, they contribute $7,000 for a total contribution of $56,000. But as you see, the money compounded, and they left it there until they retired, and we ended up with a 67, almost $2.6 million. Okay, with me so far. So individual B did not have enough money to contribute in their 20s, so they started at 30, and they contribute $7,000 from their 30s all the way to they were 67, which ended up being a total contributions of $266,000. And they accumulated $2.4 million. So still didn't meet as much as the person that did it in their 20s. And that's the power of compound interest. The earlier you start, the better. That doesn't mean that you cannot start today. So with that being said, let's talk about the difference between a traditional and a Roth. So say, for instance, you did a contribution in traditional. So you would have received a tax break, or you wouldn't have paid taxes in your, when you filed your taxes at the end of the year, or when you were paid, they wouldn't have taxed you on $7,000 a year for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, right? So that would have been $56,000 that you were not taxed on. Or in this case, $266,000 that you were not taxed on. So the difference is when it's a traditional IRA, when you get ready to take that money out, you're going to pay taxes on the entire almost $6 million. In this case, you would pay taxes on almost $2.4 million. And we know if you're taking it all out at one time, you're going to pay the highest tax rate, which is pretty much you're giving up half of your money for taxes. Okay. Now, if you chose to do a Roth IRA and invest it through a Roth IRA, because they are, you don't get the tax deduction, so you wouldn't have gotten a tax deduction on the $56,000 here or the $266,000. Okay, you pay for it with after-tax dollars. But here's the awesome part about it. When you get ready to withdraw your money, if it's in a Roth, you withdraw all of this. No taxes are taken. Again, both of these accounts. So which IRA would you select? And understand why. Why would you do that? Okay. There are some other things I'm going to go over here just as quickly. So what are required minimum distributions? I was talking about that and just kind of going fast, and my husband's like, what the heck is that? So I'm like, hey, I'm going to add a chart because I went over it with him. In traditional accounts, you have required minimum distributions starting at age 73. While Roth IRAs do not have RMDs, allowing for greater flexibility and potential growth. And the reason behind it is Contributions to traditional accounts are made pre-tax, reducing your taxable income today. Uncle Sam wants to collect its piece of the money eventually, though. So the RMD rule exists to make sure those who have invested in a traditional and simple IRA, 401k, 403b, 457, SEP, profit sharing, defined benefit accounts pay taxes. So the RMDs ensure workers take out a set minimum amount of money each year based on their life expectancy. Withdrawals from traditional accounts are taxed as ordinary income. Okay, I'm going to say that again. It's taxed as ordinary income. By requiring traditional account holders to take RMDs, the government also makes it possible for wealthier retirees to just leave. They make it impossible, for wealthier retirees to just leave their 401k or IRA to grow tax-free indefinitely before passing those accounts over to their heirs. Because you have to take the money out every year based on your age and life expectancy. If you say, hey, I don't need the money, I got enough with my Social Security and my pension, you get penalized. And I'm going to say it sounds like a lot this year, but it just changed in 2025, I believe, 2025, starting this year, with the new bill that was passed. So if you do not take your required mandatory distribution, you'll face a 25% penalty of whatever amount you fail to withdraw. So if they said you needed to withdraw $40,000 that year and you don't do it, you automatically are penalized $10,000. So the exception to RMDs, and make sure you check into this, if you're still working for the company that's sponsoring your plan, by the time you turn 73 and you don't own 5% or more of that company, you may be able to avoid RMDs for as long as you remain employed. Although all plans may not allow this, so please double check. Also, RMDs impact Medicare premiums. RMDs increase your taxable income, which can lead to higher Medicare premiums due to the income-related monthly adjustment amount. RMDs for inherited accounts. If you inherit an account requiring RMDs, you are also required to take RMDs. However, the rules for when and how they differ if you are a spouse or non-spouse of the deceased are different. So be sure to read up or discuss it with a financial advisor on the rules of required minimum distribution so you aren't caught off guard down the line and end up losing money in a penalty when you don't have to. How can you avoid RMDs? Okay, remember, I'm just giving you educational information. The best way to avoid RMDs and the taxes they trigger is to switch your traditional IRA 401 account to a Roth IRA or 401k. Withdrawals in the Roth IRA, as I mentioned earlier, are funded with after-tax dollars, so there's no immediate tax savings when you contribute, but your money grows tax-free, and withdrawals in retirement aren't taxed at all. So it makes a big difference with your RMDs. And then also the government makes it harder to leave money if you have mandatory RMDs, but both accounts, even though the Roth IRA doesn't have an RMD, I say talk to your financial planner or know the rules, because if it is left to a non-spouse, there is a time limit on when you have to get the funds out of both accounts. Okay, rollover, a traditional IRA, or I should say rollover. I'll say rollover. You may have the word converting a traditional IRA 401k to a Roth account. So if you move that money from a traditional account to a Roth account, it is a taxable event for that year, and it will be taxed as ordinary income. So be careful when you're moving it over or rolling it over or converting it, and look at each year where you don't make yourself go up to the next level of income. So again, that would be a perfect time to talk to a financial advisor if you're not sure yourself, and pay those taxes. And then once you convert it, it will continue to grow tax free. Okay. So looking at that chart again, we're talking about the funds. So if we see here, $2.5 million you have saved up and you have a traditional account, you're going to have pretty much close to $3 million at 73. And they're going to have you draw that down based on your life expectancy. So it may be that they divide that up by 20 years and you have to withdraw that. So if this was a traditional account, you will be getting a big chunk of money that will be added to your income every year. Whereas with the Roth IRA and those withdrawals, they are not counted in your adjusted gross income for that year. So it's just something to think about and how they are treated differently. So the key takeaways on the retirement accounts: both traditional and Roth accounts are good tools for your retirement savings, but you need to look at your tax implications. If you need the tax deduction right now, that would be the traditional. If you want to get your money and start withdrawing it after you turn 59 and a half, and the number you see in your account is the number you take out, then that would be the Roth. And you need to determine, do I want to switch over at that time? And just to start wrapping it up, homework and reflection, look at your current tax bracket and see, is this something that you want to do so you can understand it and what's the best this best situation. If you do want to convert, I would recommend knowing how to do that, because you don't want to trigger and put yourself in the next tax bracket, but you can convert over years. You don't have to convert it all at once. It's going to keep growing and you will have to pay taxes after that. Your employer match. Look and see, do your employers match? And are you taking advantage of it? If you are not, please do now. You're just giving money away. Also, check to see if your employer has a Roth. I know TSP, we started, switched ours over. Now we have to convert the other pieces because they didn't have a Roth TSP before. I was TRS. They didn't get a Roth TRS till a couple of years ago, so I started in the Roth TRS. But if that's what you want to do, you can do that from Jump Street. So last piece of this, you know your FIN, your financial independent number. Now you have an idea of which accounts, hopefully you have an idea of which account you want to invest in when you start investing, what type of account, because that helps out a lot. Then you can start looking, how much can you contribute? You've been working on the debt. When are you going to have that paid off? Are you ready? Again, if you want to go above, if you haven't opened up your own individual IRA, you can do that. How much can you put in there each month? If you already are contributing or maxing that out, the $7,500, or if you're doing the additional amount, if you're 50 or older. And then you can look at your company's 401k, 403b, or Roth, if that's the route you want to go. And then understanding the limits. I did forget to say, when you are doing that, if your employer is contributing and you are contributing, there is a max, I believe, of $74,000 that the two can add up to. So just you don't want to get penalized for that. That's for your employer only, the 401k, 403b, or Roth 401k or 403b. So remember, contributions can be made for the 2025 year until April 15th of 2026. So if you didn't max yours out last year and you want to do that now, you have until April 15th. I'm not sure about the employees, so I would double check with them if they allow that or not. But with your individual IRA, you can go until April 15th. So thank you again for this quick lesson, not as quick as I wanted it to be, on traditional and Roth accounts. Please subscribe, comment below on the YouTube link if this lesson was helpful or other topics of interest. So continue learning, asking questions, and taking the time to understand your options, one lesson at a time. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next episode, Understanding Investment Choices or Basic Investing, so we can start putting this all together and see what is that next step. How can we make this an actionable plan? So hopefully you're learning. Now we have 4 lessons. Have a great day.